researched, factors such as changing and broadening the diagnostic criteria, increased awareness of autistic symptoms by pediatricians, diagnosis given earlier in life, recognition that autism is a lifelong condition, and improved diagnostic methods account for at least some degree of the reported increase. So pretty much what that means is that the higher the awareness is of autism is going to be the greater tests to be made for people to see if they have autism. So a big reason why people think there's such a spike in autism is because doctors are more aware of it, and now they're testing more, and it's being caught on to a lot earlier. So that is why we do see a spike, but however, if the numbers are actually growing, we do see that trend, but it is, we do think it's also because doctors are starting to put the nail in that more. So another major contributing factor known to influence the prevalence of autism is diagnostic substitution. Specifically, as the prevalence of autism increases, the number of developmental disabilities seems to be decreasing, suggesting that diagnosticians may prefer to diagnose children with autism instead of with other disorders, such as intellectual impairments, or that children diagnosed with other disorders are having their diagnosis changed to autism. So the reason why autism is being so heavily diagnosed nowadays is because it is a spectrum, and it is a lot easier to say a kid has autism rather than this specific thing on the spectrum, because it is a wide range. So autism is a spectrum and is very wide. So for example, in a study of school children in the British Columbia, the prevalence of students with autism increased from 12.3 per 10,000 in 1996 to 43 per 10,000 in 2004. So that's almost a 200% increase. Wow. 1/3 of this increase was attributable to children originally given a different special education classification that were then reclassified as having autism. Currently, given the confounding variables listed above, the true increase in the prevalence of ASD is not known, and ASD is autism spectrum disorder. So, the treatment of autism. So we know it's out there, and we know it is popular. So now, how can we treat it? So we do have certain ways that can kind of push technology now, which is deemed controversial. And we also have ways to treat it a more softer approach and more widely accepted, which are non-controversial. So the terms controversial and non-controversial are often used to describe unestablished or unvalidated treatments for which there is little or no scientific evidence to support the effectiveness and safety of the intervention. So the kids that I'm actually working with in this class, Bryles and Tinsley, one is 3 and one is 4. There are these 2 little girls. One of them has Down syndrome, the other one is totally fine. But they are in a program to where out of birth, they were in the NICU. Now, can anyone tell me what the NICU is?
NICU.
Yeah, the NICU? It's an acronym, yeah, exactly. So, what is it?
Neonatal intensive care unit.
Exactly, yes. So it is a neonatal intensive care unit. So fresh out of pregnancy, they were placed in there for a month. And then so for after the month, this program, this Christian program picks them up and then asks for them to be in it. In exchange, they would provide therapy services. Wow. And they would provide a lot of different things that would be needed. But in exchange, they would provide a lot of tests on these children. So some tests are conventional and some are non-conventional, but it is a good trade-off in some regards that they do receive speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, as well as company. So that's just one of something like things like that go around. But controversial and non-conventional autism treatments that are noted in the literature include antifungal medication, such as flagyl, diflucan, and nystatin. There's also aquatic therapy, art therapy, auditory integration training, biofilm protocol, chelation, and the list goes on. One of them is even dolphin therapy, so they hang out with dolphins.
Wow.
So yeah, it's actually dolphins. Some dolphins are shown to have autism too, so it's pretty cool.
Chelation too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Even chelation.
They use charcoal. That's charcoal.
Oh, is that now?
Yeah,
Interesting.
chelation.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So a lot of supplements are also very vital in assisting in treating autism, such as vitamin A, B6, B12, C, D, magnesium, dimethylglycerine, omega-3 fatty acids, and yolk prisms. So, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions at this point? We are about to wrap it up, but does anyone have any questions? Yes. Yes.
You said there's an increase of autism diagnosis on today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that primarily on race, gender, or you said gender about boys, right? About population being black, Latinos, or Asians?
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good question. I'm glad you brought that up because we did go over that in our class. And a lot of the people who are getting diagnosed with autism are actually going to be the wealthier middle to upper class, because a lot of families who are in poor and impoverished communities, they cannot afford to treat a kid that has autism, and they also cannot afford to see doctors who will diagnose autism. So in a lot of retrospects, the people who are diagnosed are going to be among the wealthier and middle class and up families.
Oh, right.
So that does include, Caucasian and, people like who just have, us and above and middle class. So, yeah.
What about other countries?
Yeah, in other countries, such as in the UK, wherever technology is advanced, then yes, autism is widely recognized. But in third world countries, not so much.
Yeah.
Like Haiti and
They
Dominican
don't have a lot
Republic.
of resources, probably.
Not a lot of resources, no, and autism probably isn't really high on their spectrum. So
Very good.
yeah. So now we are just going to go ahead and wrap things up by talking about something I like to call a PowerPoint. So now, actually, yeah, those were the treatments. So, does anyone have any questions over the correlation between vaccines and autism?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to know.
So, that was published by Dr. White. That was his name, Dr. White. And then he was widely recognized for having many papers published because he was a well-recognized medical doctor. But he did do a study over kids with autism and kids who were vaccinated, and there was a correlation, but there was no causation. And since then, his paper has been removed from the journals, and he has now lost his license. And there have been many since studies that have disproved his paper. And so now, please continue the vaccine. And that's it.
So there's no correlation between vaccination and autism?
Right. So there's actually been figures that they did show the increase. So there is a graph where you can see the increase of people getting vaccinated and then the increase of autism diagnoses. So the reason why we see an increase of autism diagnoses is because more people were testing for it, and then it was becoming more prevalent, so that's what we saw an increase in autism. And with the increase of vaccines. But that is only correlation. There's also been graphs that show correlation between Jackie Chan movies coming out and people like falling off bridges. Like and like both of those have increased, but there's no causation between the two.
The majority of them are middle class or upper class, so they can afford vaccines. That means all of them got vaccines. That's the correlation.
Yep. Everyone will get vaccines for sure.
Vaccination.
Any other questions? Conclusion. All right. Well, thank you for that. Glad.
It's very informative.
Yep. Thank you for sitting through all of that. Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I thought autism was the capital
Okay. Wait.
of
Y'all aren't
Texas.
done just yet. I'll be right back. Please.